Hey everybody, it's Jim with Triple J Bricks. Welcome back to another video. Today we are sitting in my dining room because we have a very large project to tackle. We gotta clean some Lego. So you may recognize this bin from our bulk adventure Lego excursion that we went on. If you haven't seen that, you should check out that video. But here we are. We have a massive bin of completely unsorted Lego. Not only is it unsorted, but we have trash, we have non-Lego pieces. This is completely unsorted. And so I thought what we would do today is I would show you sort of my process for cleaning and sorting bulk Lego. And there are many ways to do this, obviously, but this is how I do it, and this is sort of my process. So first things first, we have to sort through the uncleaned Lego. And the reason I do that is, one, to get rid of trash, and two, to make sure that we take everything apart, because you don't really want to clean Lego and have it dry if it's not completely taken apart, because then water gets trapped in there, and that's not what you want in your Lego. You want to make sure it's all completely dry before you sort it and part it out into your inventory. So we have a few bins here for our first pre-sort process, and this giant bin is where all of this Lego is going to get transferred to. Things like this clock piece, this clock tile, that's gonna get tossed in there. All the true Lego is gonna go into there, except for large plates, large pieces, those, like this, those are all gonna get tossed into here. And we'll probably end up cleaning this first. This is just a way to sort of do a pre-sort process to pull out some of those larger pieces and make it a little bit more manageable inside of that first bin. And then in this little bin, we're gonna put all of the 2x and 1x bricks, because all of my bricks go to a very similar place in my inventory, much like large plate, large pieces. Those are all kind of in the bigger bins upstairs. Again, you could do this however you want. You can start to sort out things. This is just sort of how I do it to sort of keep the process a little bit easier as we go along. In this bag is recycling, and that is where all of the plastic pieces that are not Lego are gonna go, like these Mega Block minifig legs. I'm not interested in that, so those are gonna get recycled because they're plastic. And then in this bag, this is just for all of the trash that we're gonna collect from the bin. So let's get started. Okay, we are making a dent. We've dropped it maybe a few inches from the top, and I've been pulling out as much of the big parts as I can here. You can see we got tons of huge pieces. I might end up needing to maybe do a quick wash of these first. I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna keep going for a little bit longer, but here's regular parts that we have all ripped apart. We got our bricks here, and then we got a bunch of non-Lego plasticky pieces that are going in there, so we're making headway. All right, we're about halfway through this bin. We got about halfway down, and I think it started, oh, I did a little flip here. I ended up transferring the smaller pieces to this smaller bin and the larger pieces to this larger bin because these got overflowing very quickly inside of that little bin, so I moved them into here. So now you can see, I mean, we have a huge bin full of just large pieces. I ended up just sort of tossing like different, just big chunky things into here. Some 2x plates, but then like sometimes I didn't always follow that rule. It's not a huge deal. And then we have our brick bin, which is doing just fine, of our 2x and 1x bricks. But I think it's time that we do our first wash. Because again, if we were doing like 5 or 10 pounds of Lego, you know, we could probably do it all in one go, but this is the 35-pound bin. Like, we still have a ton left to process. And just in order for it to not get out of hand and out of control, I don't have a ton of space to dry this stuff. Like, I can't really do all of this in one go. So I think we're gonna do our first wash of the big pieces, and it's sink time. First thing you wanna do is make sure that you get a stopper to put in the drain of your sink to make sure that you don't lose any of the small parts down the drain, and we are ready to clean. our bucket is in the sink and it is ready to go. Obviously, you can see here we have all these larger pieces. We're gonna do the large parts first and make our way through. Oh, also I wanted to mention, I do also clean any pieces that are stickers. I've never had an issue with stickers coming off from the cleaning process. I'm sure there's some schools of thought on that. Some people probably do that, some people don't. I've never had an issue with it the way I clean my Lego. So generally speaking, if the stickers are on and they feel pretty good, I will just toss them in the bucket, and I've never had an issue with it. So, all right, so now we have to prep our bucket. All I use is, I use an anti-back spray where I will just literally spray the parts with a little bit of the anti-back spray just to do a little bit of like a disinfectant. And then I will take just a little bit of like dish soap. I'm pretty sure you can use any kind of dish soap. We have this like spray stuff. I'll spray it a bunch. I might add a little bit more if I need to in the future. And then it's just, you just want to be able to use warm water. You don't want to use too hot. You want it to be just kind of like a nice warm temperature. And then you just let this fill up until the water, until basically all the pieces are floating. All right. So all of the parts are now floating in the water. I've mixed them around a little bit. You want a little bit of the suds. It's kind of, it makes mixing the parts a lot easier once they are submerged in water. So just kind of mix them around a little bit. Make sure all the pieces have gotten a little bit of that soap, a little bit of that disinfectant. And if you have any parts that need special treatment, for example, I have this little bin here. This needs a kind of like a scrubbing. I gotta peel off some of this stuff. If you have any parts like this or any plates or anything, sometimes you get like sticky residue, sticky goop that ends up on some of the parts. Generally what I'll do with that is I will take a old toothbrush. This is sort of my Lego cleaning toothbrush. And I'll just put a little bit of soap on it and I can just kind of scrub off and get into like some of the areas, like, you know, in between the studs and things like that, or on the backside, and just scrub some of that off individually. I'll generally place those aside and clean those by hand. But yeah, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this sit. I generally let this sit for about 3 hours. Again, you could let this sit probably overnight, it would be okay. I generally let it sit for just a few hours, and then before we get to rinsing and the drying process. So we'll let this sit and we'll come back and do the rest of the process. Now, in order to dry our Lego, we're going to need a large surface to lay out all of the wet Lego on. And this table being empty is a very rare occurrence. This is in our office. This is in the Lego room. And this table is clear, which it's not going to be very, very shortly. So, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay down a towel. Does not matter what it is. This is just a beach towel that we have that I usually use to clean Lego with. I will spread this on the table so it's nice and flat, like so. Okay, so this bin has been sitting for a few hours now in the soapy water. And about every half hour or so, I will come through and sort of just move all the pieces around a little bit. Make sure they all get good and soaked. And so now, these have been sitting for now, yeah, about 3-4 hours. It is time to rinse and get them on the drying table. Okay, so we have the bin up here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this colander. You can use anything basically that will sift water through. All I do is I come in here and I will grab some big chunks, bigger pieces, large plates, any of the larger chunks. Get them tossed in here. Got another base plate right here. Run some warm water, just like kind of the same temperature of the water that I ran. Make sure they get rinsed real good. Mix them up a little bit. It's a little harder with the larger pieces. A lot easier to sift through on the smaller pieces. Again, there's so many different ways to do this, but
This is just how I have been doing it, and it's worked pretty well. So make sure that they get all rinsed, and then we're gonna take them up to the towel. Then you dump. And then you'll just repeat the process over and over. Rinse and dump. Rinse and dump. Rinse and dump.
Last bit of this first load of the larger parts in here, ready to get dumped on the table, but I wanted to show you the water. So normally what I'll do is I will dump out the water like through the colander to just get the last few pieces, but I really wanted to show you the watercolor. I don't know if it's gonna show up on camera, but there's like little bits and grime and dust and all sorts of like hair and all this kind of stuff that's just sort of sitting in the water. I mean, you can see the difference between the tub and the watercolor and how dirty it is. I mean, Lego just gets dirty. Years of play, dust, grime, germs, all that kind of stuff. So it's very important to clean your Lego when buying bulk. Okay, so here are all of the large parts of our first round of cleaning, all on the drying table, ready to be dried. And I'm not gonna lie, real talk, this is way too many parts. I bit off way more than I could chew. These larger pieces, I definitely should not have done as many at a time here because they are layered a little bit too deep, in my opinion. But that's just gonna mean that they're just gonna take a little bit longer to dry, and that's okay. I mean, Lego can sit there wet. You just don't want us to be storing it wet. But we're just gonna crank the fan on, and we'll let that sit for, probably let it sit overnight, and we'll see how it is in the morning. And probably in the morning, I'll go through and I'll just kind of move some pieces around, maybe peel off some of the drier, larger parts, and allow those ones underneath to continue to dry. And after all that, you can still see how much is left unsorted in this bin. I made a little bit more headway, but you know, I'm still just under halfway through this bin. Now, thankfully, I have removed most of the larger parts out of here, so I think we're just gonna be dealing with a lot more smaller pieces moving forward. And that's pretty much cleaning bulk Lego. There's a couple more things I wanted to talk about before we ended the video, and that is sort of why I do it. As I was going through this process, I kind of talked about this in my why I buy bulk Lego and how I buy bulk Lego, but I wanted to reiterate that as I was filming this process, I was realizing it is a lot of work. It's time consuming, it's a lot of effort. You're not gonna probably end up using all of these parts, you know, at the end of the day, right? You're probably not gonna end up using some of these pieces depending on what you wanna build. Some of them are gonna be very valuable for mock building and things like that, which is kind of why I'm doing it. But another reason why I'm doing it is it's cathartic, and I'm excited to put together maybe some sets from some of these spare parts that I would not have put together before. I'm excited to use some parts from other sets in interesting ways. And lastly, it's helped me sort of relearn Lego over the last 20 years. I've been using this as sort of like a research study sort of a thing, to take a look at some of the sets that have been coming out, some of the new themes that I was not familiar with. I will take parts that I'm, you know, confused about what they are for, and I'll look them up and I'll see what sets they're for, and then I'll start to go down a rabbit hole. It's been a fun experience to kind of do that, and so that's also part of why I do it. If you have any questions or comments or want to know anything about what you saw in the video, please let me know down in the comment section. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you learned something here about the process of cleaning and processing a bulk Lego, at least this first part. And yeah, again, there's no hard and fast rule on how to do things. This is just my process and how I do it. I will probably refine that process as I continue to do more and more of these bulk loads, but it's worked out pretty well. So Everybody, thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And remember, until next time, keep on building. Jim out!